Hi, friends.
Hey friends, we're back.
We're back for another episode of the Brunch and Judge.
Number 27.
What,
Woo,
what?
party.
I have to
Over six
say,
months
I
now.
I super loved my late 20s. Not as much as I loved early 30s, but
Right.
I did enjoy the late 20s. That's when I started being like, oh, my brain's not broken. Everything makes sense. I can make real
Right.
decisions now. It's fine.
You're like, my brain is fully formed.
Right.
I don't
Uh,
have teenage brain because teenage brain is a disease, guys. I don't know if
ugh.
you knew that. Teenage
I
brain
mean,
is a disease
so
because it's
we
just like, what?
we have a teen intern this summer, and he's exceptional. I total mad props that we
Nice.
acquired this amazing. I mean, as a teen intern, he's 18. I mean, he's getting ready to go to college, but
Yeah.
um, there are these little moments where I see it still, and I'm like, even the super smart, good ones, it'll just be a little moment. I'm like, it's okay. His brain isn't completely formed yet. It's fine.
Right.
It'll be okay.
Right. Like you'll get through this, I promise. Just make it to 25. You'll be fine. Oh my gosh. All right. So, what are you judging today?
Today, I am judging parents who do not teach their kids curse words.
Who don't?
Right.
Okay.
So, like, I get it. You're trying to raise good human beings, yada yada yada. But here's the thing. Little kids saying curse words are hysterical. Like, I
It's
mean,
literally the funniest
it's
thing.
you if you're not laughing at that, there's something wrong with you because I
Mhm.
just I can't understand. So here's my thing. So and I did tell Claire about this yesterday because it's too funny. So I'm just sitting on the couch. Spencer is in the back room playing something. We had the door open for all the nice
Mhm.
fresh cool air coming in. And there's kids playing in the park across the street. It was like a gaggle of youngish parents and their smallish children were just kind of hanging. I don't know, whatever. Group play date. I don't know. I don't care.
Right.
But I vaguely kind of hear some of the stuff that they're talking about or saying, like when the kids are screaming, and I see a dad is like lifting his children up to the top of the slide instead of making them climb up the whole thing. He's kind of lifting them up, and my assumption is that this was this particular child's first time going down the loopy slide, that goes.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
He gets on and he goes, and I mean it's not a long slide, but he's little, so
Yeah.
it takes some time. But the entire time he goes, "Fuck!" And it's not like cute little high pitch kid going, "Fuck!" It was like a little bit of that gravel, like it's having a panic. It was the funniest thing. I'm just sitting there going, I'm laughing so hard. I'm going,
You're like, "Wait, what?"
but my favorite thing is how like none of the other adults are reacting at all, and I'm going, that is
Like they
correct.
don't even
Like,
care.
you're fine. It's fine. This kid is fine because you know what? That is the correct time to use the word. Is when something is scary and you're like, what the hell am I doing?
One of the funniest things. It's like I love TikTok when people
Mm-hmm.
their kids on there cursing.
Is it the
But this
tiny
one
girl in the washing machine?
I've seen that
That's
one,
my
but no,
favorite one.
this one was like it was like the mom was in the passenger seat videoing and she says, "This is the song that's being made up after my husband dropped the F bomb in traffic." And the husband, she never videos the kids, but you can hear this little tiny voice coming from the back seat going, "What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What?" I mean, like over and over and over again. And the husband is just sitting there with his hands in his face, and he's like, they were both trying like so hard not to just like completely die
Mm-hmm.
laughing, and it's like he's crying, like they're both just like giggling. And you just hear that little voice, and he just keeps going the whole video. That little kid just keeps saying that over and over and over again. And it's like, why is this so
My
funny?
favorite, and I sent it to you because I laughed so hard and showed it to like 5 people at work, and I said, I know this isn't work appropriate, but and
Right.
it's this little tiny girl. She's got to be what, like 2? I mean, she's
I
tiny,
two
and
and a half at most,
she's
yeah.
like, I don't know, she's putting stuff into a washing machine or pulling stuff out of the washing machine. It
Right.
doesn't really matter, but she keeps reaching into it, and she's going, "Fucking damn it, fucking damn it." Fucking damn. And it's the funniest, cutest thing ever.
I know, it's terrible.
And I'm like, okay, parents, you need to just let your
She's
kids.
so tiny, and it's just like you think she's gonna fall in the wash. There's like one of those front loaders, like she's gonna fall in or something. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I and so I was reminded of that when the little kid would go, fuck down the slide.
Right.
So
So funny.
that's my judge. I feel like more parents should embrace letting their kids just let it fly and see where it goes. I mean, obviously, don't
Right.
let them call people bad things. That's something else entirely.
Right.
But you know, it's okay. We all need to have curse words in our life to to really
Right.
express the
Right.
fear or frustration that we're experiencing.
Yep. Oh my gosh. So funny. Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
I don't know, but you're right. I don't know why kids cursing is
Well,
hilarious,
there's an
but it is.
episode I was randomly watching Modern Family in the way that I vaguely watch things to be in the
Oh yeah.
background,
Mhm.
and I saw there was the episode where I've forgotten all their names, Cam and uh, his
Oh,
partner,
uh-huh.
whose name I've
Can't
suddenly
think.
forgotten, but they have
Jesse Tyler Ferguson is
yes,
his real
um,
name. Yes. I
but
know his
they
real name, I
have
don't.
their adoptive daughter Lily, and she's in a wedding, and she's just learned fuck. I mean, they don't say that because it's
Yeah.
sitcom TV. They bleep it out, but and Karen laughs every time she says like he can't help it. And I'm like,
Right.
that's correct. That is the correct reaction, is that you just laugh
Yep.
and go, okay.
You're like, "This is hilarious."
Because it is. It is
Oh,
hilarious. All right. Random note.
yes.
Also been randomly watching CSI lately because, you
Yes.
know. And Cameron was on the first season or 2 of CSI. He
Oh,
was
was he like one of the
he
like
was
a
one
tech
of
or
the
something?
techs on the show. Like he's
Yes.
just randomly talking. I'm like, I
Wait a minute.
just heard your voice. I know you.
What's weird, because I went back and I watched like all of CSI, like all the way
Hmm.
through. Obviously, it took me months because there were so many seasons. But it's so funny to go back and watch some of like the earlier episodes, and you see people who are like really famous now, who like
Hmm.
Jeremy Renner was a bad guy in an episode, and
Hmm.
just Idris Elba was on, like, played some kind of thug. I mean, it was just, you see the people
Yeah.
like, wait, what? It's funny to go back
Well,
and watch.
and
You're like, wow.
I had this weird in one of the early seasons, you get a little bit of Warwick's background, um,
Oh yeah.
and find out that he grew up in a rough neighborhood, but it was a community center that really helped keep him on the straight and narrow, and
Right.
blah blah blah. And I was like, did Criminal Minds steal this from CSI? Is this every
Apparently.
black man's backstory in
Backstory,
every
yes.
cop show ever? Is
Hmm.
he came from a troubled
Absolutely.
neighborhood and happened to have
Didn't
a
have a
great
fa
community center
Yeah,
that
didn't have
you
a
know
father figure really,
right?
and,
It's
because
like
his dad died.
how
Yeah.
how horrible is that? Because I was like, wait,
It's, like, so
I didn't
stereotypical,
remember
yeah.
that at all about Warwick. Not at all. Like it had been. I mean, it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
probably since that season was on that I saw that. So,
Right.
but whatever. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. So Claire, what are
Yeah.
you judging this week?
Um, kind of a judge, kind of like a, I don't know what you call it. Anyway, my boss was on a jury for a murder trial,
Woohoo!
which when she found out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, we've been training for this your entire life."
I know. It's like pick
I
me.
know, right?
Like
Why
let
can't I
me.
be on anything
I want to
fun
be in a
like that?
murder
Yeah,
trial.
right. And so she comes back because she's not allowed to talk about it. So
Mm,
she did tell us who was on trial because I mean that's public knowledge.
right.
So I immediately go and I look the guy up and I'm like, yikes. It was this murder that happened in Radcliffe like last year. And the guy, and this was all in the newspaper article, the original newspaper article, that he had shot this woman, drug her body outside, and they were charging with murder, but another charge was abuse of a corpse because there was evidence that he had had sex with the corpse. And so, come to find out, the evidence that they had was that the man videotaped himself having sex with a corpse, and they showed that to the jury. So my
That is
boss had to watch cell
horrific.
phone video of a man having sex with a corpse. And I'm just like, what? Somebody obviously does not watch enough Dateline or 48 hours to know. Oh,
Well, okay, so
these people.
like obviously we've talked about this before, guys.
Yes.
But Claire sent me that article and I read it and I'm like, who just dragged like he drug a body outside and like the neighbor saw it and was like, is that a dead body in your yard? Kind of a thing. And
Like,
going,
yeah,
what the hell is wrong with you? Like, don't get me wrong. I want bad people like that to go
right.
to prison forever and ever and ever because
Absolutely.
they should
Absolutely.
not be allowed in society. But I'm also
No.
offended on like an intelligence level of what the fuck were you thinking? You don't just
Right.
drag it outside and be like, that's fine.
And you just leave it.
The
Well, I
hell?
mean, obviously, which it came out in trial, the man was like on drugs, he was high. That was like part of his defense, was like he really didn't have a defense. It was mostly
Well,
like
and again, I'm
he
like,
was he was high and he felt like his life was threatened, which absolutely not. Whatever. But and they did convict him. It's all said and
well, of
done now,
course,
so
right.
we can talk about it. But they did convict him, and apparently he had also had because he was a previous felon, not his first rodeo, obviously,
Mm,
and he had a gun, and so that is also a felony because you
yes,
can't be a felon and have possession of a gun.
I'm aware of this
So,
knowledge. I have
yeah,
family
so not only
currently
did they get
serving prison time for the same thing. So, cool.
right. So, I mean, they did convict him, but it was just she came in and we were at, she talked about like as much as she could. She was just like, "Yeah, this is kind of like what we did for the day, because today was like prosecution." And then she was like, "We had to watch a video." And I was like, "A video of what?" And she was like, "A crime." And I was like,
A video of a
"Did he
crime.
video?" At first I was like, "Did he video himself shooting her?" And I didn't
Yeah,
say that because I'm not allowed to like talk about that.
right.
And she was like, "Well, no." But she's like, "It was bad. It was bad." And then she just goes, "I was not prepared for what
Yeah.
I watched."
I feel
And so
like,
I'm thinking about it, and then all of a sudden it just pops in my head, and I was like, because they had said that that was one of the things he was being charged with, and I was like, I bet that's what it is, and I was correct. My assumptions
well,
were correct.
because I mean,
I was like, I can't imagine.
I'm I'm not super knowledgeable on all of the super finite information people can get from corpses these days, but
Right,
my assumption is it would be hard to tell whether or not sex occurred pre or post mortem if it was close together. You know what I mean?
right. Like if it happened like right before,
So
yeah.
if they're saying he had sex with a corpse and that he was abusing said corpse, I feel like the proof would have to be some form of videographic evidence. But also, hey,
It's like,
here's just like a pro tip for anyone out there. I'm sure no one who's listening to this would ever, but
right.
if you have made several poor life choices and have video evidence of those poor life choices and the prosecutors have that, perhaps you should try and make a deal. Cause
Yeah, don't go in because I mean he was like not guilty all the way. And it's just like,
because I was like, here's how it works. So like, you know, prosecutors and judges and things, they just want to move you through and move on. They got so much to do. Jurors will hold on to that memory and they will remember it come sentencing time. So like, don't do
right,
that. You just scarred a
right.
whole bunch of people. Like,
Absolutely.
the fuck is wrong with you? But also,
Right.
hey, maybe just like don't kill people.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the simple things.
But that was his defense, was he was high and he was not under like complete control of his body and he felt threatened. So he felt like he did it in self-defense. Whatever.
All right.
That was basically it. I'm not even kidding.
Sure. So cool. If you felt threatened and you kill someone, you then, even if you are high, you still call the cops.
Right. You don't
Call
just
for
drag the
help.
body
You don't
outside
drag the body
and
outside,
leave it.
and you don't have sex with the body because,
Right.
like, what the hell? Oh
It was
dear.
just, yeah. But Carrie my boss said that in the like closing arguments that the prosecutor was like, you can't claim self-defense if you're the aggressor, and it was like it was clear that you were the one who walked into the room with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, that's out the window at this point.
Yeah.
you know. So I'm like, I'm glad that that person brought that up because it's just like, jeez. But anyway, that was exciting to live vicariously through my boss about a murder trial because we were like, wait, what?
Yeah. Like,
Because she also
you
watches
know.
all the Dateline, you know, Snapped,
Yeah.
ID,
I mean,
Discovery TV stuff.
I don't
Yeah.
really want to serve on a jury because my attention span is
N-
shite, and I can't. I just boredom.
right.
Um, I mean, I wouldn't intentionally try and get out of it because I not that person either. But if I
Right.
do have to serve on a jury, I want it to be something that I can be like, well, I can't talk about it. But then as soon as they're like, I can talk about it now. Let me tell you all the things.
Right. Right. Right.
It's like I
Right.
want to at
Yeah. And
least get some
that's kind of
vicarious
how this
thrill out of it,
was.
even if it's horrific, and be like, well, at least we got this guy,
Right.
or one of those
Well,
things
what
where like he
shocked
absolutely
me,
didn't do this, and they didn't have any evidence. Like I want
right.
either way is fine
Well,
with me.
yeah, and what shocked me about this, the trial started on Wednesday. They did their closing arguments on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was super short. And it was one of those things where like I mean, it was obvious that
Yeah.
he did it. It was just a matter of like 'cause, they give them very specific like
Yeah.
rules on how
Instructions.
to
Yeah.
yeah, like
It
if it's
does it meet this and
murder,
this and this? In order to be
then
this, it
it's
has to blah
this.
blah blah. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and
No,
so
they
Carrie
try.
said, she said that it took like I don't know, probably a good half hour for him just to give instructions
Yeah.
on how to, convict.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that when they went into the deliberation, I mean, it didn't take them that long,
Right.
but it was one of those, had it been one of those where people argued and all that, she said that they were like, oh no, you all would have been here all night until you got came to a verdict. And she was like, that would have been really crappy. Been like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't have a verdict. But she did say they took a lot of breaks because there was sometimes like if it was something they had to confer with that was longer than a couple if it was just a couple minutes, they would turn on the white noise machine.
Mm-hmm.
So the jury couldn't hear what they were talking about, like at the judge's bench. And then if it was something that was gonna take longer, then they would like let the jury leave.
Mm-hmm.
She just said there was a lot of like in and out. But they did let them have, like, an hour and 15 minutes for lunch, that kinda thing. So, she was like, "I feel like it could've gone quicker if they didn't take so many breaks," but I guess they have
Well,
to
but there's all sorts of legal things happening
Oh,
that
yeah.
the jury doesn't get to know about. Things that
Right.
may or may not get entered into evidence, or arguments that may or may not be allowed
Exactly.
to be had, and I know.
Yeah, like, they can't bring up certain things and all that. But, yeah, it started on Wednesday, the stuff happened on Friday, and then she had to go back the next Monday
Hmm.
and sentence. So then they had to go and deliberate for sentencing, and she said it took them probably, like, a good 45 minutes to an hour to explain the rules and the stuff on the sentencing. So it was just,
Yeah.
it's been kind of fascinating learning about that, like somebody who's really doing it in real time. So
Yeah, yeah. Mom was on like federal jury duty for 6 months because it's like a 6 month period, and it doesn't
my mom is
start.
currently
It doesn't
my mom is
start
currently
until
doing it.
until you're called the first
Uh-huh.
time, which is
Yep.
so my mom. It took like a year and a half before my mom finished it, or
Was
something
like
ridiculous.
technically
So,
off jury duty. Yeah.
um, because
And see
there
the
were
first
like
time,
moments that she was like, this period of time I can't, and so they would just like tack it on at the
yeah,
end. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But she never had anything interesting except
right.
one. She got called to be a juror for, or went through like the process to be a juror, and it turned out to be like a distantly related cousin, and my mom's like, I know him, so I can't be.
You're like, I can't do this. Yeah. Mhm.
He's like, well, he's technically my cousin. And they're like, well, you're out. She's like, okay,
Right, right,
bye.
right.
It was like, way to go, mom.
The first time mom was on federal jury duty, my grandmother, her mom, was sick and well, not really sick, but it was just she
Yeah,
needed,
needed care.
somebody there to help. I mean, we had people coming in, but still, it was just mom was driving down like every weekend
Mm-hmm.
to Knoxville. So it was like she was like, look, this is happening, we have vacation
Mm-hmm.
planned. It's like, there was a bunch of things at once. So I think again it took her like a while
Yeah.
to
Which,
even
I
get
appreciate that
called.
they were like with mom, like they were super chill about that's fine. We'll
Right.
just take you off for this, and it's no big deal. And I'm like, oh well, then there you go.
Right, right,
I've
right.
only had jury duty once, and I only had to do I did the orientation,
Mhm.
and then I requested 1 day of my 30 days off because I had a doctor's appointment already scheduled.
Right.
And so they gave it to me. Like I was excused for the day. That was the only day that my number was called. So I was like, well, I didn't have to go.
Nice.
So there you
Right.
go. That's all.
No, I've never
Well,
been
you better
called.
be knocking on some wood because now they're coming at you.
I
Find it.
know here.
Find it.
Knock I'm knocking on this chair. It's
Because
wood right
like
now.
that's how they get you. All right. Last thing before we start. In my never-ending journey to de-stress my life and find joy and happiness, I started
Right.
doing embroidery.
Ooh.
So this is my current project.
Nice, nice, nice.
So it takes forever. Yesterday I spent like 3 hours and I just did those green leaves.
So, how is it like what's the difference between
Embroidery and
it
cross
and
stitch.
yes, because I've done several cross stitch
So
things.
with cross stitch, it's the same stitch for everything. Like you're doing like the each four corner, like the four corner thing.
Mhm.
For embroidery, it's different stitches. So like
Okay.
the leaves are actually
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're you kind of do a longer stitch to make it look like a
Uh-huh.
leaf. I mean, they
Mhm.
do have like just some basic straight stitches, which you do in cross stitch too.
Right.
Um, this is my first embroidery project. My leaves, I think, look amazing, so I'm very pleased.
Yes.
And also, it says "Be badass." So
Right, right,
if you're
right.
not watching us on YouTube, I will try and remember to throw a picture up of it so you can see it. I will detail my progress slowly because it'll take
Yes.
me forever to get this done.
That was like when COVID hit and I had gotten I bought a couple of different I've still got one I've not started, but I did finish the Buffy one. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like in the middle of watching Buffy. I was going back and watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and then I got this cross stitch. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I would do at night. I would continue to watch Buffy and would sit there and like cross stitch this thing
Mm-hmm.
and it's a line from one of the episodes where she says if the apocalypse comes, beep me. And it's got two little stakes
Right.
and then and then it's got like the Buffy the Bee logo below it. But yeah, no, I really enjoy cross stitching. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's a good way to de-stress. It's just
Well,
kind of
and
like
yes, stabbing something over and over several times, it's a little
right.
cathartic. What can I say? So, um,
We have to keep us
so
updated.
yeah, I will. I will. It's trying to find my bliss again
Right.
after a
No.
summer of
I
chaos
I
and
totally
stress.
understand that.
So,
Yes. Absolutely.
all right.
Sweet.
Well, this episode is all about voodoo.
Go do that voodoo that you do so
So
well.
well. I love that movie.
I do too.
I think I go first this week.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm just going to give you a quick little crash course in voodoo. And then I'm going to talk to you about Marie Laveau, who was the voodoo queen of New Orleans.
Yes, she was.
All right. So I got all of my information from Britannica, ghostcitytours.com,
Yes.
and womenhistoryblog.com.
Nice.
Okay. So voodoo is one of many ways to spell it and pronounce it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's
I
also
found that
like
when I was like looking up stuff.
Vodou and Vodun and all
Mhm.
this. It's
I know.
complicated.
Right. Right, right, right.
It is a traditional Afro Haitian religion. and is the result of West African Vodun religion being blended with Roman Catholicism, primarily by the descendants of specific ethnic groups that were enslaved and transported to this to Haiti. It was then like Saint Domingo or Saint Domingue, I don't know. Then
Yeah.
who were then like partially Christianized by Roman Catholic missionaries when they got to Haiti, and it's
Great.
you know what happens. It's like having the Easter bunny or celebrating Jesus's birthday in December. It's just what happens
Right.
when you mesh stuff together. Except this one way more fascinating.
Right. 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 Right.
Okay, so voodoo means spirit or deity in the Fon language of the then Dahomey African Kingdom. It's now I think it's the country of Benin, Benin.
Okay.
Um, I will tell you, I tried to watch a documentary on Amazon Prime, and I have forgotten the name of the, I'm sure, incredibly famous actor because I suck at that. But
You're like, I don't know.
I'm like, you're familiar. I don't remember why. You know, I'm sorry. But he um he grew up in Benin and grew up with
Okay.
voodoo kind of like in his childhood, but I guess left youngish because he like went back to uh kind of study or learn about the origins of voodoo and how it, how Hollywood made it all twisted and dark.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was the goal of this documentary was supposed to be essentially this is a religion and it's not all dark, and it's not this evil thing that Hollywood has turned it out to be.
Right.
But
It's
Spencer and I had to
demon.
turn off the documentary because it was fucking twisted. I'm like, this is
Oh
not doing
really?
you any favors. I now think worse
Right.
of voodoo
Right.
because this was horrible and horrific.
The actor was that I can't ever say his name. It's like that Jijman Hansu guy.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. He was in Amistad. That's where I like
Ah,
really remember him from. Yeah. He was also in Guardians of the
but
Galaxy.
so like I had less positive thoughts after watching part of that documentary. Like, nope, can't. We're done. Too many chickens and goats being sacrificed for my tastes in documentaries, by the way.
Gotcha.
Ugh.
Because there is a lot of that that goes on.
Right.
Lots of
And
animal.
they were they were trying to equate, this just made me nauseous. Um I don't eat a whole lot of meat, but still.
Right.
They were trying to equate it to the same thing as or not even equate it, but saying that in America we slaughter so many more animals for food. So it's not really as bad as Americans. It's like, well, we love them and we take care of them, and yes, we sacrifice them and then we eat them, and I'm like, no, no.
What? Yeah.
Like, no, you cannot tell me that is the same thing as food production in America, which is dark and gross and shitty and bad. I'm here for that. You're
In
correct.
its
It's
in its
horrific,
own yes.
um, but no,
Mm-mm.
no, oi, oi. Anyway,
Yeah.
that
I do not agree. No.
random aside there. Don't go watch that documentary. It is not. It's not for you.
It's not for
It's
you.
not for you. It's not for me. It's not for anybody. I tried. Man, I tried because I was like, I want to know more. I want to feel like I have a better understanding. I had to leave.
You're just like, I can't deal.
But
Nope.
in voodoo, the general thought is that everything is spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are spirits that inhabit the visible world, but there is an unseen world that is populated by other spirits. So there's the Iwa, which are spirits, the Miste, which are mysteries. I don't know what that means. The Invisible, which is the invisibles, the Zange, which are angels, and also it's inhabited by spirits of the dead because our ancestors and everybody's still hanging out right next to you right now.
Right.
There
Yeah.
she is. I see your grandma. Like, that's really
Right.
little little creepy. Um,
Yeah.
but in voodoo, the primary goal is to serve the Iwa, to serve the spirits, offering them prayers, performing rituals that apparently involve a lot of chicken blood.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. In order to get health and protection and favor in our visible world. So, one aspect of that includes spirit possession.
Okay.
So, during certain rites, a believer may enter a trance like state in which they may eat and drink and perform dances. They may give supernaturally inspired advice. They
Okay.
might perform like medical miracles, like cure you or do physical feats. In the terrible documentary, there's like this weird dancing thing. Like it's mostly guys that I saw doing it, but essentially they're
Right.
spinning, like they're spinning themselves around and around, jumping almost like in a circle, but they're almost completely horizontal as they're doing it, like defying
Oh,
gravity almost.
really?
Like I mean, it's obviously physics. Like I can see how the momentum
Right.
and what they're doing, but it is bizarre to see.
Like it almost looks like it could be
Like they have done
something
some kind
weird.
of
Yeah.
feat of they've been
Right.
possessed by the spirit in order to be able to do that. I think is
Right.
I equate
Okay.
it to like speaking in tongues. It's like
Gotcha.
okay, it's like I don't know what's really happening, but okay. Um, when they do rituals in voodoo, their goal is to try and refine and restore the balance and energy in the relationships between the visible world and the spirits in the unseen world. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad.
You're like, eh.
So like that's like a nutshell of what it is. Like any religion, and I mean any religion, there are people who take it to a more positive place and there are people who take it
Mm-hmm.
to a less positive place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And voodoo in Africa and Benin looks very different from what we experience here in the United States because
Oh,
it
of course.
so
Yeah.
like it starts off as Vodun in Africa. It turns
Mm-hmm.
into voodoo in Haiti. But then, as you know, slaves are just property and they just get shuffled around wherever. So they and several ended up in Louisiana area. And so Louisiana has its own voodoo, which is again slightly different. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit separated and has a few more influences from, you know, fun time American culture.
Right. Right. Right.
um so I yeah, it is what it is. And that's where we find Marie Laveau, who was a fascinating woman of power, really. Like I feel like she's someone to aspire to.
Right. 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 I want to be you when I grew up.
So Marie Laveau was born around 1801. No one knows exactly when she was born because she was a person of color. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't really keep records necessarily of those kinds of things, but through
Right.
some other historical records, they have deduced that it was probably 1801.
Mm-hmm.
So the next fact is very surprising. She was born a free person of color
Oh,
in
really?
New Orleans in 1801.
That's interesting.
So her mother, who is named Marguerite, was a freed slave, and
Okay.
she was a mistress to Charles Laveau, who was a wealthy, at the time, the word was mulatto, but
Mm-hmm.
businessman, which is surprising in and of itself because,
Right.
I mean,
How progressive.
I
I
know.
mean, like,
New Orleans apparently was a bit more forward than other areas of the South.
gotcha. Because it's like at this point, like when she was born, like
I mean, we were
Civil War hadn't even happened
no,
yet.
we were several
Right.
years away from that. So Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
still baby country. I
Right,
mean, we're
right,
still
right.
like, woo, slavery, it's fine.
Like we're only like what 25 years old at this point. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
So anyway, Marguerite went to stay with her mother, Catherine, while she was expecting. It's hard to be a mistress when you're super preggers, I guess.
Right.
um, and once she had her baby, once she had Marie, she left Marie with with Catherine, Marie's grandmother, Marguerite's mother, and returned back to the home of or wherever she was kept. I don't really know the rules of
Right.
mistresses in the early 1800s.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I don't know what the
So Marie was lived with and was predominantly raised by her grandmother Catherine, um, and was the first person in her family to be born free. Everyone else had been freed later or had originally been
gotcha.
born into slavery. So now there are a couple of interesting things about Marie's early life. She got married in 1819 to a man named Jacques Paris. Um, and most people say they didn't have children, but there are a couple of baptismal records that suggest that they did have children. One
Okay.
named Marie and one named Felicity. They
Okay.
were both baptized when they were like seven-ish, so not like babies. They
Gotcha.
were young children. And in I think Felicity's baptismal record, it indicated that Jacques was no longer alive. Um, but
Okay.
there's not a whole lot of information about that. It's just at some point he just wasn't there anymore, and she started referring to herself as the widow Paris.
Okay.
But interestingly, she she insisted that he had died, although apparently there's some evidence that maybe he had just left her. Like, okay, I don't know.
Okay. So she's like, I'm not gonna be scorned.
Right.
No, no.
I don't know. Maybe
I'm just no, you're dead to me,
yeah,
therefore you
you're
are dead.
dead now.
Right. It's like no.
But there other than these baptismal records, there's really no indication or any other records about these two children. So I don't
Gotcha.
know. No birth, no death, just okay.
Baptized and we're done.
Uh
It's like doesn't matter.
right. She later fell in love with Louis Christophe Dumansnil de Glapion. Because remember, we're very French still, 1800s.
Right.
He was a wealthy white gentleman, and they were together for 30 years until he died. It was considered a common law marriage because interracial couples couldn't
Mm.
legally marry, but were actually
Right.
very common in New Orleans, which was shocking to me. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's
It's the 1800s.
man.
What have we really fucked up this hard? Like we've gone back so far to be like, nah, we can't
Right?
have this.
Like sounds like New Orleans was super
Right?
progressive. Like
They were just like, I mean, we won't legally marry you, but you can. It's fine. There was no
we
dragging
don't
people
care.
off. Apparently, it's fine. Whatever.
That's yeah.
In their common law marriage, they had 7 children. 3 of them
Okay.
died in infancy, but
Mm.
they also had a daughter, which was named Marie.
I think it's weird when moms name their daughters like
The same name. Well,
right.
and I only
But and
yeah.
it's so because people don't find that weird when you name a son after the dad.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yes.
Like it's always like they're a junior, but then to hear like, oh, we've got all these girls, it's like why? I don't understand. It's a double standard.
Well, I'm here to say I hate when anyone names anyone after themselves. It's weird. Stop it.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Like throw them at your middle, your name is now your child's middle name, fine. But like stop.
Right.
When you all have the same name, it gets confusing for everyone outside of your
It's
family.
so
I'm
confusing.
talking to you, Anjali and Craig. It's so cool because it was like Big Unchley, Little Unchley, but Little Unchley is now the Big Unchley, and I'm like, what? I can't. And then there's like a little Unchley who actually goes by another name, and I'm like, no, my brain can't process it.
Right.
It's fine. Anyway,
It's fine.
anyway, I only tell you that because it matters later
Okay, gotcha.
that there are two daughters named Marie. Not sure if they both lived. I don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
So Marie was a hairdresser who did the hair of the wealthy white women of New Orleans. And they would frequently, like one does, confess their dark secrets and fears to her. Tell her all the
As
secrets, because that's
that's what you
that's
do
what
with a
it's
hairdresser.
true. You go to the hairdresser, you tell them all the things, they know it all.
Right. They're the dangerous ones.
Yeah.
Hairdressers. They know all the dirt.
But she was also very devout. Marie, she attended Catholic Mass regularly, was a devout Catholic. Her home was filled with images of saints, which, as you know, or maybe you don't know, a lot of voodoo invokes the saints. Like it's also very similar to me. Like
Right.
it's a weird marriage of religions.
Right. Yeah.
So she was known to be a very astute practitioner of voodoo. Like she was who you sought out when you needed help for things. So,
Gotcha.
um, there's a local writer who is from like the early 20th century. Wrote about Marie Laveau saying, after dark, you might see carriages roll up to Marie's door, and veiled ladies, elegantly attired, descend and hurry in to buy what the old witch had for sale. An errant fraud, no doubt, but money poured into her lap down to the last day of her evil life. He was not a fan.
Well, obviously. Like, well,
But it was one of those. There was concern. So she had, she's a hairdresser. She had these wealthy white women who would seek her out for advice, for cures, for spells, for, the things,
yeah.
all the things one does. And there's a lot of concern about it. Like she was infamous, but there was also fear of voodoo during this time because in
Okay.
Haiti, which is where voodoo first kind of originated, really, it started really there as we understand it. There was a huge revolution that occurred that began with a voodoo ceremony.
Okay.
So a voodoo priest in Haiti uh, started a service, sacrificed a pig, and used the blood to create a blood oath to overthrow the French. And
Okay.
a few days after that, enslaved people began to rebel and burn the sugar plantations and start killing the white population.
Oh, wow.
So there is fear that voodoo in New Orleans was going to do the same thing. That there's going to be something that would incite, and then there would be,
Yeah, that it was
turn
gonna
into a
take over. Yeah.
revolution, and people are going to die, and all the bad stuff.
All the bad things.
And not too many years earlier, in 1773, there was a documented case in New Orleans in which several slaves were tried for conspiring to kill their master and their slave overseer by means of gris-gris, which gris-gris is.
I was gonna be like, what's that?
Yeah. So gris-gris is a voodoo thing. I don't know. Essentially, it's a bag of herbs and other magical substances that
Mm-hmm.
um, you carry with you with the intention of taking control over someone else or having protection for yourself. Like maybe you carry it for your own personal protection. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is my gris-gris that gives me protection, or this is my
Mm.
gree that I use in order to control someone else. So
Okay, gotcha.
magic substances that you carry with you to get what it is that you're looking
But it
for.
was for like different things. It wasn't
Right.
just
So it
okay.
could be it's like maybe you carry something for good luck, or you wear your St. Christopher's medal for protection, or you know. Let's see. I was talking about Grigri.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from the African Gregris, Gr. See, it's like Grigri is Gris twice.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Gregries. Gregory's
Okay.
bag, which you carried blessed objects or things. Same concept, but not
Gotcha.
not necessarily meant for overthrowing tyrannical
Yeah.
society, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all happening in the background. And so there were lots of concern about Marie and what she
Right.
was doing.
Because you're
Um,
like, oh, is she like trying to overthrow things? Is she trying to
and yeah. And
start a
so
revolution?
no one is really sure quite where she learned her craft.
Mm-hmm.
She might have trained under Sanite Didi or Maria Salope, who were also known voodoo queens, priestesses. I'm not quite sure which ones. Um,
Uh-huh.
there was some thought that she was a student of Dr. John, who was a voodoo doctor that people sought out. But then there's also thought that perhaps her mother and grandmother were also voodoo queens and taught them all to her. So it's just like a whole,
Okay.
how
Like
does she
who
know? What is her
right.
connection? But she would um, have ceremonies in which participants would become possessed by the spirits, by the Iwas. She would dispense charms and potions. She saved several condemned men from the gallows. Not quite
Ooh.
sure how.
You're like, I don't know what happened, but that's what it said.
She told fortunes. She healed the sick. She sold a lot of gree, again, the thing that makes people nervous.
Right.
She would, let's see, she'd give advice on love, and she would give people cures to things or charms, or she would give them gree bags to help them hex somebody. So she was like all over. She's like, good, bad, in between. Good
I
times.
mean, money's money.
Right. I mean, I'm here for it.
At
But
that point,
and
she's
so
probably like,
sometimes someone needs a good hex. Okay,
mm,
it's just meant to be.
truth.
So she believed that the spiritual forces could be kind or they could be mischievous, that they would preside over the daily life and intercede on in the lives of their followers. So she was very devout and tried to connect with them through singing, through dancing, through snakes.
Snakes. I think that's where I draw a line. I'm like, no,
Right.
thank you. Like,
Um,
no.
but she also had secret voodoo meetings and would arrange liaisons between white men and black women. She was
mm.
known for parties at Maison Blanche, also known as the White House,
Ah,
in which it said, what I read made it sound like it was a lot of wealthy white men, having a good time as a bunch of naked black women
ah.
wandered around. I'm like, okay, that's
Well,
fine.
yeah. Mm,
Whatever.
yep. Sounds about par for the course.
It's so like people on the outside looking in and seeing her, some of them were truly afraid of her, were afraid of her magical powers. Um,
So, like, they really believe that she probably was a witch at that point,
well,
or yeah,
voodoo, priestess,
yeah.
whatever. Yes, but yes. Because voodoo and witchcraft are close, but not
Oh yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
same at all. It's
Right,
like
right, right.
there's themes, but I mean they're very, very,
Yes.
very different. Um, it all gets muddled in today's world, but
Right.
I'm sure back then voodoo and witch is it's all demonic to them. So,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
there were there were others who did not believe in her magical prowess and believed that she actually just had a really nice network of informants that gave her like information that she needed and could kind of help make things happen if she needed to in order to make it,
Probably a little column
a little
A, a little
column
column
B.
B. It's fine.
um, but she apparently was excellent at getting inside information on her wealthy patrons, either because she was doing their hair and they told her things, or because
Right.
she, being a woman of color, was able to speak to their servants and, was close to the servants, because she was, again, a person of color, not a wealthy white man. So she
Right, right, right.
she was able to get information.
It is. It's like you get somebody's servant that's like they know the dirt
But
too.
whether
So
whether it's because she had great information or because she was in fact a woman of magic and power, she was able to overthrow the other voodoo queens of New Orleans. What?
she was the ultimate
She
voodoo
was like da
queen.
da da. My door just opened. It's creeping me out.
Uh oh.
Haunted house, man. Haunted house. So as voodoo queen, she acted as an oracle and would predict the future. She would
Oh, okay.
conduct private rituals behind her cottage in the French Quarter. She would perform exorcisms and, of course, offered sacrifices to the spirits, which is horrific.
Right. Yeah.
And there were all sorts of stories about um, what happened to anyone who offended her. So people
Oh,
were
right.
very careful to give her a wide berth. So,
Right.
again,
Right. Right.
whether it's because she was a magical voodoo priestess or has had all the information, the lowdown and everything,
Right.
But then there's this weird other subplot because she kind of just lived her life and was, pretty much revered and feared and all of those things and lived doing
Right.
all the things. But then there's this weird Marie too. So,
Because children named Marie.
right. So there's this one of the things that she was kind of known for was how she didn't really age. Like for the longest time, she stayed very young, and
Mhm.
everyone was convinced that it was because of her voodoo, her
Mhm.
magical powers. But it may have just been a very shady switch in which she had her daughter pretend to be her at times.
Okay.
So her daughter would wear her mother's clothes and carry her mother's professional things, and that would make everyone think that she was super powerful and strong. But we're not really sure
Gotcha.
because there was a Marie too, but no one is 100% sure if it's her first Marie daughter that she had with Jacques, or if it's her second
Mm.
Marie daughter, which she had with Christophe, or if
Right.
it's someone else entirely who happened to be named Marie.
Right. Who looks similar to her. I mean, it's
Right.
fine.
But Marie, too, was also proclaimed to be a talented procuress, able to fulfill any man's desires for a price.
Okay.
She too held lavish parties at Maison Blanche and had champagne, food, wine, music, nice naked black girls dancing for the white men, most of
Mhm.
which were politicians and high officials. And interestingly, Maison Blanche was never raided by police.
Mm.
Now, whether it's because the highfalutin politicians were there, or whether they were
Right.
concerned that Marie would hoodoo voodoo them.
Probably a little both
Uh huh.
again. Little
So,
column A, little column B.
uh, but her infamy, so Marie's infamy lived on through Marie too, whether or not maybe it was the same Marie, maybe it was a daughter, maybe it was someone else entirely, but it very eerily similar stories because she too was a hairdresser and all this stuff. It's just a bizarre
Right.
confluence of information, and I'm like, all right, sure. But Marie, OG Marie, did hold on to her grandmother's house. Her common law husband bought that house for her, and she lived there
Okay.
for most of her life. And it, of course, is haunted
Oh, of
by
course,
her.
yes.
Um, so she still haunts her house, and she was buried in one of the famous cemeteries in New Orleans, again, above ground graves because it's New Orleans. And they have had to close that cemetery off unless you are with a certified tour guide because people were desecrating her grave because people are horrible, you know.
That's yeah. You have
Mm,
nothing better to do than to go like
they
mess
don't.
up somebody's
They
grave.
have
Ugh,
nothing better to do.
people are terrible.
Now, I will say that in New Orleans today, voodoo is more about serving others and influencing the outcome of things through connection to nature and spirits and
Hmm.
ancestors, and less about slaughter of animals and blood sacrifice, more about, you know, doing readings and spiritual
Right.
baths and prayer. And voodoo is an option to help deal with anxiety and addiction and depression and all of those things. So it ultimately seems to try to help deal with societal issues, help with the hungry, help the poor, help the sick, which OG Marie Laveau did. She was very
Yeah.
devout as a Roman Catholic and helped people, worked at the prison. I mean, volunteered at the prison, I guess is probably more correct, helping and doing
Right.
things. Now, was she also selling her stuff on the side to the wealthy people to make the money? Absolutely, because that's a smart businesswoman.
Right. Yes.
But I'm kind of like, maybe I should have had a daughter so that I could try and make everyone think I'm forever young. Like, it's my mini me, and we look the same. It's the same. Come drink my
That's
special
right.
magic potion that I've concocted, and you'll be young forever too. But that is my general story of voodoo and Marie Laveau.
Nice. I don't think I knew all that about her with the slavery thing and
No, and I found that more like she was a person of power, which I ended up
right.
focusing on the most because I was like, oh, like you were able to do things in a time when people in
Most
your
people like her were
position were
not. Yeah.
not, and it's amazing to me. So
Right. I think that part of it's cool. The
yeah.
fact that I didn't know that she was born free. It's
Well,
just
and like learning that
that
New
kind of stuff
Orleans was actually
way more progressive.
semi progressive and that they were like,
Right.
yeah, slavery is cool and all, but also that's fine. You can be free and
Whatever.
you can have business. It's fine. You can be married to a white man, at least common law. It's fine.
Right.
We
Yeah.
don't care. Okay.
Nice.
Ah,
Well, that was excellent.
thank
I
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you. So, what did you bring us for our voodoo?
So I'm gonna be talking about a woman named Clementine Barnabet.
Hmm.
Sh
Clementine.
I know. She was born in 1894 in St. Martinville, Louisiana.
Oh,
My
good.
story my story is also in
Well, I
Louisiana.
mean, that's where most of the voodoo is in the US
Right.
anyway. So, as we
Right.
know it, as we understand voodoo.
Yeah. Her parents were Nina Porter and Raymond Barnabet, and her dad was a sharecropper and a petty thief.
Hmm.
Had a terribly violent temper, was abusive, unfaithful slash serial cheater to his wife. Because
Oh,
classy.
goody. He
Right,
sounds
right, right.
amazing.
He does. So in 1909, the family, she had a younger brother too named Seraphin, Anyway,
Sorry, not
the
judging.
family moved. Yeah, the family moved to Lafayette, Louisiana, and they were rumored to be involved with the Church of Sacrifice, which is
Ooh,
a voodoo cult.
ooh.
And Church of Sacrifice was like 1900s in Louisiana. The main beliefs were centered around black magic and voodoo, gaining riches, and human sacrifice.
I mean, I feel like gaining
Specifically,
riches
human
should be like
sacrifice.
first.
Yeah,
I mean, just me.
right. So, in November of 1909, a woman named Edna, and don't at me on this last name, uh, Opelasusis,
Sure, I love it.
she and her three children were murdered with an axe in Rain, Louisiana. So that was like the first set of murders that happened. And I don't think they really connected it until the rest happened
Hmm.
because nothing happened again until 1911. It was January 1911, and a guy named Walter Byers, his wife and son, were hacked to death in Crowley, Louisiana. And then in February, like a month later in 1911, the Andrus family in Lafayette, Louisiana, were brutally murdered. And so by now the police are like, here are three families that have been like murdered with axes,
Yeah, like I'm
like in the
seeing a
same manner.
theme.
Right, right, right. So now they're thinking that the murders are related, probably committed by the same person. And then in March, this person is escalating very fast. 1911, the Castaway family, there was five of them, from San Antonio, Texas, were murdered in a similar fashion.
Hmm.
So it's like, what's happening? So the police started, I mean, they investigated a little bit, a bunch of dead ends, but then they finally started to focus on Raymond Barnabet because a scorned mistress said he'd kind of bragged about committing the murders.
I love a good scorned mistress. It's
I
like, yep,
know. It's always like, guys, come on. Don't don't treat your mistress like
your
trash.
mistresses know
She
all of
might
your
not
secrets, okay? All of
yeah,
them.
she might not rat you out. Like, come on, people, be better. So, October 1911, Raymond Barnabet was on trial, and the kids, Zephyrin and Clementine, both testified against him. Clementine said that Raymond had come home one night and his clothes were covered in blood. The brothers, Zephyrin, confirmed this account, adding that Raymond had bragged about killing the entire Andrus family, and they both testified that they were terrified of their dad
Oh
and what
wow.
he would do if he did not remain in jail.
Ugh.
And it's like pretty bad when your own kids are like, "Yeah, he's a bad dude."
It's like, can you just keep
But
him in
in
jail? Can you just let him
right,
stay there? It's better.
so he's in
Yeah,
jail,
just keep
and
him there.
then
Yeah.
right, November of 1911, a man named Norbert Randall, his wife, three kids, and a nephew were murdered with the same MO in Lafayette, Louisiana, even though Raymond's in jail.
Huh.
There was only one difference was Norbert Randall was shot, but the rest of everybody else was hacked to death with an axe. So
Hmm.
it's like
Hmm.
one little change, but still is like,
Right, right.
we've got this guy in jail, but stuff is still happening. So Sheriff Louis Lacoste wound up arresting both kids. Because at this point it's like, maybe you both lied to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so when he had arrested Raymond, they found blood on some of Clementine's clothes. And she had told them that her dad had put it there, that he had like put it on her dress. So I mean, they believed that at the time, but now
Really?
that stuff is still happening, super suspicious. So after
Clemmy.
I know, right?
Huh.
So after they arrested the kids, they searched again and they found more of her clothes covered in blood and brain matter.
Clementine is our killer? Holy fuck, keep going.
I know, it's like, what? So in 1912, three more families were murdered.
Good God.
But
Like, take a
but at this
break.
point, both Both she and her dad are in jail at this point, but 3 more families were murdered
Oh
by
my
axes.
god.
And
So
so in one of these, whoever did it, splayed the victim's hands apart with wood and left a message on the wall, and it said, "When he maketh the inquisition for blood, he forgetteth not the cry of the humble," which is Psalm 9:12, King James
I need
Version,
to tell you,
gag.
my absolute most favorite thing to leave at a crime scene is a random Bible verse. Like
King James
just
Version,
like
always.
and I feel like you should just like pick one at random, like just completely like floop, bloop, and just leave it because it's just gonna make people go
Like,
crazy
wonder
trying to
what.
figure it out.
Right.
And you're
And
like,
so with this, the accounts are weird because some people say that it was written on the wall in blood.
sure,
Other people say it was just written on the wall with a pencil.
sure,
I mean, it's just like, eh. But it was signed Human 5 and
human 5,
5, 5.
sure.
And so the police were like, this is like a band of murderers. You just have a group that are, and the El Paso Gazette was the first to publish the voodoo angle to this whole thing, and suggested that the crimes were all connected to human sacrifice, with the number 5 having some ritualistic relevance. So it's like they found about this like church of sacrifice, and the voodoo angle took off, and then people were saying that Clementine was the leader at 17 years old of this church of sacrifice,
Huh. Career
and
goals,
that this
man.
all had yeah, and this all had something to do with some kind of voodoo anything. So April 5th, 1912, Clementine winds up confessing to 17 of the murders. Um, she said she had a voodoo charm that protected her and her accomplices, and they would draw lots to see who would do the murder for the night, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. And she said that when she would do it, she disguised herself as a man because it was better for her to lurk around at night looking like a man than a woman.
I mean, fair.
Right.
It still
Nobody's going to
is.
question you if you're a man. And she also said that she would kill the children so as not to leave any orphans.
How kind of her to
Right.
be
Or
concerned
just
about
don't
the
kill
plight of
people at
orphans.
all. Right.
Huh.
And it's like, what what is happening here? But they said that her story kept changing. So it was hard to keep track of what was real, what wasn't, if any of it was just made up. You know, they said she named accomplices and the police checked all those out, but they all eventually led to dead ends. Like nobody else was arrested for any of this. And that by the end of it, she had eventually confessed to like 35 different murders.
Hmm.
And so it was just really hard to keep track because she kept changing her story, and it was never like, I did it, I didn't do it. It was just she kept changing details about certain things and how many people she'd actually killed. So it was like, did she do any of it at all? We don't
Right.
know. So the DA in this case, his name was Howard Bruner, he did suggest that some of the later murders were copycats, like people just
Mm-hmm.
trying to like get in on the hysteria of the whole voodoo
It's
thing.
like, man, I
But
hate
he
this
did.
guy. I'm gonna go murder his whole family and be like, it's
Right,
an
and
idiot.
we're gonna blame it on these other
Yeah.
people. Yeah. Especially like when you start with the human 5, that's when, because they're like, "Oh my god, this is a group of people going
Right.
around killing other people. We're gonna jump on that bandwagon." But this guy also believed that Clementine was indeed a moral pervert, quote unquote.
What the hell does that mean?
I guess because it's just like she confessed all this stuff and it's like didn't bother her.
Oh,
She had voodoo charms that
no,
protected
no
her,
sense of right and wrong. I guess it's fine.
Right, yeah. The defense obviously claimed insanity.
Fair.
I mean, right.
I
But
I as a juror would be like, Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But she wound up standing trial anyway, and she was sentenced to life at 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
Right. So this is, and then it said in 1913 that she attempted to escape the prison, but they caught her fairly quickly.
Hmm.
Wasn't like she got anywhere really. But other than that one attempted escape, they said she was a model prisoner. But then she received a procedure that, and this is all in quotes from, oh, my sources by the way were mental floss and grunge.com.
Nice.
But this was quotes in this article was like the procedure that restored her to her normal
Oh,
condition.
my.
And so then she was released after serving 10 years.
Because she'd had a lobotomy and was useless and
Yes.
couldn't function
Because when I
anymore.
read that, I was like, they absolutely gave her a
They
lobotomy.
absolutely did.
And it didn't say like why that came about, like how that became a thing. So she only served 10 years in prison and then they released her. And that was
Wow.
like the end of it. But because of the newspaper reporting, it all wound up being like, oh, it's some kind of voodoo cult. They're killing people because they're sacrificing to the voodoo gods,
Well, I
and she
mean,
did nothing to dispel those rumors because she
right.
said she had a voodoo charm. It was just one of those things, and it was like, oh, she's the leader of this cult. She's only 17, and it's just like,
That's impressive. I mean, I would like to have been so charismatic that I could be a leader of a cult at 17. Maybe not that cult. It's a little messy for me,
right,
but
right. But yeah, so I figure her dad did some of it, she did some of it,
so maybe it was like a family activity.
right,
Some families go hiking, some
right,
families, play basketball together, other families murder
right.
people together.
They
Yeah.
did say that the brother, when they did bring him in, both of them in, the brother had alibis for a lot of it. So that's why they kind of let him go and they focused on her because she had no alibi.
Hmm.
And then she's like, I dressed up as a man and snuck around and killed all these people.
Well, I mean, I don't
But
know.
yeah,
Maybe it's better to just be like, yeah, sure, I did this. Because if I go home, my dad's gonna beat the shit out of me and kill me because I threw him under the bus
right, right.
for murder. So sure, I did it. It's me. I did it. Wow.
But just all like, I mean, because it was like after the dad was in jail and it's like 17-year-old girl is going around hacking people with axes.
Yeah.
That seems like there are better ways to, there are more efficient ways to get rid of people. And just like, I'm gonna sneak, because I feel like you'd have to, but they were all like hacked in the head.
Yeah.
Like their heads were all split open. So that's why I talk about the brain matter. But still, it's just like, wow, that's, yeah.
I just love that they're like, and there was brain matter on her dress. And you're like, okay.
And in one of the articles, it specifically said that they found the blood from one specific family. And I'm like, how do they know that?
In 1900 whatever?
Yeah,
Nuh-uh.
this is like 1912.
No. I don't think that's real.
That's why I was like, how would you know it's from one specific family? Because at that point, they obviously did not have DNA.
No.
And they didn't even
I don't think
have
they had
like
blood typing yet, did
blood
they?
types. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they did have blood. Let's find out.
I don't know.
When
When did
when
they
did
start
they
blood
have
typing?
blood typing? Uh, but I can't spell.
I hate when I do that. I'm always like, oh gosh.
Let's see. Well, it's possible that blood they could have done blood typing, but like not really. I mean, it's
Okay.
so as I understand it, they discovered that there were blood types because they're like, why aren't transfusions always working? Sometimes it kills people. I wonder why. So they
Right.
figured that out in like 1900. Um,
Mm,
but the guy who discovered the blood groups didn't win the Nobel Prize until 1930. Um,
mm,
in 1907, they recognized separate blood types. Da, da, da. It's basically a history of all the different names that the blood types had. Isn't that exciting?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So maybe, but not really.
So like, it's not impossible. Let's see. But let's see. Hospitals and doctors didn't. Not all hospitals and doctors used blood typing for transfusion, even in the late 1940s. It was gradually accepted by 1950s. So I feel like
Yeah. Like there's no way that they would have known that it was that specific
no,
family.
there's no way. I'm calling shenanigans and lies and crap.
Yeah, there was one that was
This
just
is
like, oh, the blood of
lies.
this one specific family on her dress. I'm like, but how do they know that? Especially if there were that many people killed in that way. How do they know it was that one specific family?
Lies.
That's why I
Lies.
was like,
They didn't. They didn't know.
they didn't know.
I mean, unless like one of them had blue blood or something.
Right, 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 right.
Whatever.
But anyway, so that is the story of Clementine Barnabet and the voodoo that she did so well, apparently.
Boy, did she, man. Except that she ended up in prison and didn't escape, so she needed some better gree.
She did.
If you don't do it right, I mean, there are
I mean, and then
consequences.
she wound up with a lobotomy. So
Yes,
yeah,
which is awful. It's not good for us.
no,
I don't want one.
no, absolutely not.
All right.
Absolutely not.
I guess that
It's
means that
time
it is tarot time with
with
April. Ah,
April.
spooky, spooky. Okay, Claire. I'm gonna shuffle the cards. Are you
All right,
ready? Tell me when to stop.
do it.
Time to shuffle the cards so that we know what the gods want us to know. The universe is magical, filled with unicorns and rainbows. But the cards will determine whether we get unicorns, rainbows, or voodoo.
Stop.
Right. There we go.
I just didn't say stop because I wanted to see where
Maybe
that
the song
song
was
was
gonna
going.
go. You
I
and
was
me
like, what
both.
is happening?
You and me both. I don't know what's gonna happen. I start singing and I'm like, here we are. Let's figure out what happens next, huh? That'll be funsies.
It's fine.
All right, ready?
Yes.
We start our week with Claire.
What?
It's the devil.
It's my birth card.
Claire's devil. The devil.
Finally.
Amazing. It's gonna happen eventually. So that's how we start our week. Our middle week is the world.
The world. I don't even think I realized that that was a card.
And then we're gonna end our week with, oh my, judgment again.
That was last week. Yeah. Well, this is an exciting
It
week.
sure it's well, they're all major arcana cards. I haven't pulled that ever.
Right. Well, we've not had the devil or the world, so
Well, we have now.
I
All right,
know.
boys and girls, buckle in. Because we got some big cards happening this week.
Right.
Do 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 do. Getting there. Let's see. The devil. Claire. How do you feel
Yes.
about this?
I don't know. We'll see how
How
I
do you
feel
feel
about it.
about pulling your birth card? Does that mean this is about you? Is this week all about Claire Allen?
I don't know. I feel like if you pulled both my birth
All
cards, then it really would have been all about me.
right. All right, Claire. The devil.
Let's do it.
There are few tarot cards that will freak people out if they're new to tarot. The Tower, Death, which just means change, the Three and Ten of Swords, the Moon, and some others are a bit foreboding. But the Devil card freaks everyone out.
As it
Everyone.
should. I know. It's just like even when you find out, like, it was like, oh, that's your birth card. And I'm like, ew, I don't know if I like that. That's like, like you just hear it and you're like,
I know, right? The thing is that the tarot card isn't about the Christian construct of the devil. The devil was based on Pan, who we've heard a lot about, so
Yes.
who
Cool,
is
cool.
quite the licentious god. Booze, freedom, and lots of sex. Pagans loved this stuff. Christians, not so much.
Right.
So our fun-loving Pan got a new name and a new role, and a scowl, and apparently chicken feet. Cool.
Okay.
And bat wings.
And bat
Okay.
wings.
I don't know any adults who are scared of the sky. I could poll around 100 of my friends and say, okay, you behave like a bastard. Is this guy going to come and get you? And I'd bet they'd all say no. It's fair. I don't
Right,
I don't
right.
really think the devil's coming at me, so it's fine.
No.
Let's see. Do 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 do. Okay, so in the Rider Waite deck, I'm gonna describe what the card looks like so that you can have this knowledge.
Okay.
So it's a naked woman and a naked man. They both have horns. They're chained around the neck, and they are chained to, I guess, like a concrete stanchion or whatever that the devil is sitting on top of. Very stereotypical devil, by the way.
Right.
But it says, "Do you see how the people are chained to his throne? Those are pretty thick chains and look fairly sturdy." Who could create a better hell for us than ourselves? Who knows our weaknesses? Who knows how to make us feel low and dirty and worthless? Who is ready to exploit those vulnerabilities and hurt us at a moment's notice? Yep, ourselves. We are our own greatest
Noted.
enemies, guys. It's true.
It's true.
Let's see. We don't always chain ourselves up without help, peer pressure, poor guidance from parents. Whatever your path is, at some point you have a choice to make. Do I wear this chain or not? Do I drink to excess? Do I treat this person like crap? Do I hurt someone just because I can? Do I steal? Do I judge? We do. We judge. That's who we are.
Oh, all the time.
So these choices are ours to make. And the older we get, the heavier the chains get and the harder it is to take them off. Let's see. This card is about chaining yourself to those things that pull you down. We turn ourselves inside out and pick and pick and pick until our insides are a bloody mess. I wonder why we allow that. When does it become okay to verbally and emotionally abuse ourselves? In what context and in what fashion does saying horrible things to ourselves become permissible and even expected? I think it comes down to two things: fear and doubt. Fear that we're not as good as everyone else, and doubt that allows fear to trickle in. If we are confident and strong, what someone else says about us bounces away. So it sounds like we should be a bit introspective here and and be like,
Yeah, like don't.
don't be nice to ourselves. We deserve
Right.
it. It's
Cut
like,
yourself some slack.
yeah.
Give yourself some grace.
And it's about, I think, maybe being aware of what we do to ourselves, which is my constant journey in my stress-free life. I felt
Right.
I've been trying to journal again. It's been a long time, but I started literally like last week, so I'm not even a full week in. But
Right.
I started doing like a little paragraph or two before I go to bed. And last night I was talking about how I felt guilty because I didn't accomplish a lot yesterday. I was
Mm-hmm.
I did some embroidery while I was watching Nancy Drew. Woo!
Nice.
And I was like, I don't have to be productive all the time, but for some reason that's ingrained in my head. Like I'm supposed to always be doing
Right.
something and making something and whatever. So I was like, maybe I need to let myself not feel bad.
Right.
So, it seems applicable to me in this moment.
I feel like they could be applicable to anybody.
Yeah,
Like that one's
mm-hmm.
like you said, we're our own worst enemies.
We really are. Um, I complained about my food baby I had this morning. I'm like, I ate too much food last night. It's gotta be nice.
Right.
Okay. So now that we've recognized that we're cruelest to ourselves and we should fix that and be nice to ourselves, our midweek is the world.
The world.
The World card is the last card in the major arcana. There are neat little images all over this one. Let's see. I don't know if mine's the same, but there's a whole lot happening in this card. That is very true. So let's see. Do 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 do. Okay. I found this quote about the world, and it always strikes me as perfect. One does not conquer the world, one discovers it. And I'm not sure who said it, but it covers the focus and achievement of the world. This card is associated with getting the job, finding balance in life, and graduations and celebrations. It's a culmination of all your hard work and the confidence that comes along with that. Let's see. The the determination, stability, persistence, and achievements are all reflected in other cards of the major arcana. If you see all of the cards before this as a journey, this is the happy conclusion. Cool. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a poetic yada yada yada. So it's about finding the balance in life. I like that. Getting the job. Let's get that job, Claire.
Let's do
Let's
it.
get that job. And then, of course, we end our week with judgment, which is how we end all of our weeks.
Apparently.
Let's see. So I'm not gonna go all the way back into it since we did just have it. But let's see. The judgment card is not so much about wiping the slate clean as accepting that your life is full of holes and mistakes and graffiti and scuffs, and all of those marks and flaws are what make you beautiful. This card comes up when we reach a crossroads. We can continue the way we have been, or we can challenge ourselves and find our authentic path. Our true calling is out there, and although it's easier to remain complacent and accept what has made us comfortable, it doesn't do us a damn bit of good. It doesn't help us grow, and it doesn't help us become more complete people. If we accept the flaws and bring them into ourselves, maybe we can feel lighter and move onward and upward. So, cool. These are cool cards.
I know. These are
I I've
right.
I've really enjoyed this particular series of cards. They're very
I
colorful
mean,
too.
that's like, yeah. I feel like there's some big things in these cards.
Right? It's like, all right, so be kind, and then we're gonna have the new job and the celebrations and the good things, and we're gonna move on forward. So it sounds good to me. I like it.
I know.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a progressive week.
I know. Guys, it's a lot to happen in a week, but I'm here for it.
Right.
I'll take it. Which means that now it is time for us to learn our fate for next week. It's time
true.
for the Wheel of
Of
Fate.
All right. It's spinning.
What are
We'll
we gonna
see.
have this week? Do 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 this week.
Books to movies / TV shows.
Oh my. Well, I know where we're gonna go with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, join us next week as we hate on Dan Brown's adaptations of every single book he's ever written.
Right.
Because, God damn it.
I started to say we both were like, "Oh, that one."
I mean, to quote the child on the playground, fuck.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
I think I'm gonna leave that. I think I'm gonna leave that one on there.
There are so many. There are so many.
There are.
Mhm.
There are so many.
Oh, Dan Brown. Bless you for writing such amazing books and then somehow letting Ron Howard fuck them up each and every time.
I know, it's like, do you not have any say in when he does his movies? I mean,
Like I get it. I get
like,
maybe in the first time, like you signed away all those rights maybe because you didn't know better. I
right,
understand. I understand. But like after the first catastrophe, you had to be like, wait a minute, I need to fix this. Like, let me
right,
still my. By the time we got to Inferno, man, you knew. You could have fixed
right.
it. You could have been like, no, I have
I feel like
some
I feel like
control and say.
out of the three, the Da Vinci Code is the most accurate
Mm-hmm.
to the book.
Yeah, it left out things that I thought were important, but
But I feel like
weren't
it didn't just
huge as
go,
much as
yeah.
they didn't change
Like
the
I
entire storyline.
Yes, and I feel like that's one thing with people who just go in changing things just to change them. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's like, but like you change this one character, but this other character you inserted serves the exact same purpose as the character you eliminated. Like, why? Why? Anyway,
Hate.
we'll get into that next week.
Yep.
April and I have so many thoughts,
So
feelings, and emotions about
many.
all of it. So
So many. Okay.
it may we may need to do a two-parter next
Yeah, yeah.
one.
I gotta warn you, we may not shut up because like it's a thorn in our paw. Like I just get really aggravated and so angry. So angry. Okay.
You want to talk about judginess. This is what April and I judge the
It's
most.
true.
So
Our conversations come back to the atrocities of Dan Brown movies frequently.
all the time.
All
Absolutely all the time.
right.
Anyway,
Well,
so
until next week when we murder all of those things, you can
right.
find us and all the things in all the places. You can listen to us on podcast networks, or you can watch us on our magical YouTube station where you'll learn that today Claire and I both wore yellow, which we literally
Which
own one shirt in this color each. So,
yeah, like
fucker.
yellow's not my color
No, it totally
usually.
washes me out. I'm not lying. It's fine. I look very
Same.
glowy today. It's fine.
And I mean, I bought this shirt just because it had like orange text that says "Made in the Shade" with a little palm tree.
Right.
It was like summery, and so I'm like,
That's
I'll
fine.
get this one shirt. Usually yellow is not a color that I
Mm,
gravitate to.
no, it's all sunshine and roses. We all know I'm a cloudy day girl, so.
Right.
But you can find us in all of those places at,
Brunch and Judge.
and you can send us some more suggestions for our wheel, and any other things you'd like us to know about you and share. You can send those
Yes.
to
brunchandjudge@gmail.com.
amazing. So until next time, keep on brunching.
Hit and keep on judging.
Bye.
Bye.
Brunch and Judge. Brunch and Judge. We brunch and judge everything and give you opinions that nobody asked for.